Welcome back to Aw Ship, a team building focused podcast. This is the 12th episode of my podcasts. I'm here to talk and work through a very special and important subject for all companies, all businesses. Building a better team with the customer in mind. This is missing from everyday life. There are companies large and small that have forgotten who are paying their salaries or the bills of the company that individual works for. Trust me on that. Thank you to everybody that has returned and has given me feedback. Any feedback is welcome. You can reach me at the email address above. Please subscribe to my LinkedIn and YouTube channels as well for further information about team building. And if you want to have a conversation outside of this podcast, please reach out to me and we can definitely discuss that. RA Enterprises is here to help everyone. Anyone can learn, anyone can help. Over my years as the Director of Operations at Premier Logistics Partners, I've learned and seen how a good team can impact others. RA Enterprises is how I'm giving back. It's how I'm supporting others. It's how I'm serving others. And at the same time, it's making me a better person, a better husband, a better father, and a better leader to my operations team at PLP. So as I do every week, let's going to rip this from the headlines this week. Well, this one is a strange one, and I really don't want to go down a lot of the rabbit trails that can happen here. But the FTC has now announced that they are banning non-competes. So a non-compete is basically the fact that you work for the company you work for, and you are not allowed, whether or not you're fired, laid off, or you leave under your own will, meaning you found another job, you're not able to work in certain geographic areas in certain aspects of other companies based on your non-compete. It is very difficult. And some companies, when you leave them, make it a downright disgusting item. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but just know that non-competes are widely often exploited in the practice of imposing contractual conditions to prevent workers from taking new jobs or starting a new business. They are often force workers into either stay in a job that they want to leave and bear other significant harms or costs, such as enforcing a switch to a lower paying field before coming back into that field once that non-compete time frame expires. It is estimated that roughly 30 million workers, which is basically 1 in 5, are affected by some type of non-compete. Now, again, I'm not here to say anything good, bad, or indifferent. I'm just ripping this from the headlines. But it is my opinion that non-competes absolutely do hinder the growth of individuals and businesses themselves. So just know that. But also, very key thing, and it's always been this way. This has always been true about non-competes and contracts. If you interview for a job and you take a job, and then you're going through the paperwork and they give you a non-compete, you can read it. You can refuse to sign it. Now, sometimes they will still let you into that job. Sometimes you have to walk away from that job opportunity. So it still comes down to your individual thoughts and feelings on it. And again, I'm just throwing caution out to the wind. All right. So non-competes, the FTC has ruled to ban those. I think the effective date is like in July or something like that of this year. So if you have a non-compete in your current position, up to you whether or not you want to say anything to your employer, or if you want to, change jobs or start a new career. Just think about that. So part of that sort of has me going down the river to what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about communication and how important that is in the structure of a team, the structure of a business, the structure of any organization, and even for your customers, right? You need to have good communication across the board, top to bottom, bottom to top, left to right, right to left, in everything you do in every aspect of your job. So let's start just on a basic side here, just with definitions. Communicate. Share or exchange of information, news, or ideas. Very basic, right? Communication. The imparting or exchanging of information or new means of sending or receiving information, such as phone lines, computers. Now we have Bluetooth with cell phones. You tap to click, all that kind of stuff. So those are the two sort of areas that I want to sort of talk about here and unpack. So let's just look at communicate. Sharing or exchanges of information and ideas. Our society has been doing this since the dawn of time. And I'm not talking even the time of Jesus, when Jesus was here on this planet, doing all the good works that he was doing before he was crucified on that cross and died for our sins. But even the time frames before he got here, people had to communicate. You had to, if you were a leader of a village and you needed to have a hunting party to go out to get food for your group for the next 2 months, you had to communicate to the other males in the camp that, hey, on 2 days from the full moon, because they didn't really have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday back then, we're going to go on a hunting party. And we're going to be looking for 5 bears to bring back. That's going to feed us. It's going to clothe us. It's going to keep us warm. It's going to give us the ability to paint and do things and make pottery and stuff like that. So way back in time, communicate, having that in the ability to exchange information and ideas and share them, okay? Then you look at communication, the means on how you're doing that. So let's talk about the caveman, since I just went way back in time, right? Caveman. How did the caveman communicate? Well, based on what we know, they communicated a lot with stories that were, painted out or drawn out. We've gotten more sophisticated in that over time. Just from hieroglyphics and pictures to written language, words, them being able to record voice like I'm doing right now. This is a form of communication. This is a device that I'm using to communicate, right? So now we have talk to text and different ways to actually speak into an electronic device that then can turn around and dictate that into words, and then it'll be saved, and it can be saved on the cloud and then printed out later on. So there's communicate and communication. So we have to know and understand just those two basics before we really jump into how that then impacts your team, right? So your team is a group of people that you manage or are part of. Your team could be your entire company. It just depends on how you want to look at the definition of team right now. Now, obviously, the most essential thing in communication and communicating is that you have to convey important messages about strategy, customer service, brand identity, an update to an item, a press release on somebody being added to your team. So that makes sense, right? But internal communication also is extremely important. It builds and connects your employees and your teams on different levels. And it boasts the collaboration of teamwork within a company. If you don't communicate and you don't have communication within your team, within your department, within your company, you will have cracks. Cracks are never good. Cracks are how your customers sometimes get upset with you because something falls down, something doesn't go as planned. So we have to keep that definitely in mind. A good communication also in the workplace is key to success in your business. It improves the profit margin and the reputation of your organization if you have good communication. So if you have internal communication and internal conversations, that strengthens your team. I talked about this last week, right? On different things, different holes. So I used, the foundation, right? The foundation of trust. So you have that foundation. It's firmly together as it's woven in like this, right? It sits here. When your company and your employees are together, they're woven together, they're going to work hard for you. They're going to work hard for each other because they don't want to see anybody get, left behind or have an issue or fail. So ultimately, your company, your product, your reputation as an organization grows and improves. When all your team members are working together for that mission, it is vitally important. It definitely creates an environment that is driven towards reaching and serving your customers. And again, that's what this podcast is about. That's what I wanted to get into. I'm starting to get into more meaty things, right? Some things that might hurt, might sting, but then it might be a light bulb moment, right? Companies that perform their best are those that are completely coordinated and aligned. Coordinated and aligned. They're going the same direction, y'all. It's a direction. It's the same. Doesn't matter which way it is. It's all the same, right? Look at my hands. Look at my hands. See? When I get back here, you can see. See that? One right behind each other. They're going that way. Okay? They're going this way. They're going that way. They're going in the direction together, lockstep. For why? For you and your customers. It all starts with communication. Now, I want to just, bring up a stat that I found when I was researching this a little bit this week. And it stood out. It was actually two things. But the first one was a Microsoft survey, that when communication is good, when it is effective within an organization, even a specific small team that might only have a few team members, it's a 23% greater productivity rate. That's huge. 9% higher profits when communication is effective. So think about that. Productivity goes up. That productivity does not mean profits. Let me make sure I make that clear. When you're more productive in what you are doing, that doesn't necessarily mean your profits are going to go up. But because you're able to do more in the same amount of time, that's where your profits go up. If you're able to talk to 15 customers and you get a little bit more productivity out of those, and all of a sudden that now goes to 20 or 25 customers, that's your profit right there. Okay? Now, communication does not mean meetings. Meetings can be a drag on productivity. I just want you to think about that. We all work jobs that, depending on your job, salary, hourly, it really doesn't matter. But most people think of a work week as 40 to 45 hours. Yes, most salaries are based on 40, but when you get in a position, that really means 40 to 45. But think about just how much is lost when you're sitting in those meetings. It's a lot. Now, the other side of that, poor communication. Now, because of poor communication, you can have a lot of different meetings spread throughout the week or month. But if you have bad and poor communication just in everyday life, in everyday team or environments, it definitely drags. And this was it blew me away. I'm like, what? What? Are you kidding me? Sort of the reaction I had when I read this. But who likes time and productivity? I like it. I like to have time to do lots of things in my job. I like time just to also interact with my team. It is important for me to walk out of my office. So in my office, at the office, I also have one here, but it's a little golf green. And let me see if I can jack with the camera here and show you my golf green. You can't exactly see it here. I'll just bring it out here just a little bit. Yeah, that's my golf green right there, right? So I have a similar one that is in the office at Premier Logistics Partners. And we got it we've had it probably close to 7 years, I'd say. Somewhere in that range, okay? And in my department, I'm pretty much the golfer. But we got sales guys that are golfer. Our owner Doug's a golfer. It's conversation piece. But we all stand up there with a putter and hit golf balls, even though they're the team members that are not part of the golf world or enjoy golf like I do. But it is important for me to walk out and interact with my team and communicate with my team. See what the team morale's about. See how they're feeling about just that the goings on. I got to fix the camera here. I think there we go. But again, we want to excuse me. We want to be available for our team if we're a manager. If we're a leader within a team, we want to be available to our team. We want to communicate. When something doesn't go right, there's a change, there's an issue, you want to make sure you communicate that. And the best way to do that is really to communicate that in person. It is. Don't send an email. It's a lot harder to read emails. But what I was getting back to is time and productivity, right? And again, I got to fix the camera, sorry. Next time I won't touch anything. I won't show the golf green. But 9 hours, it's estimated that 9 hours are wasted per week due to poor communication with just one employee. One employee is losing 9 hours a week. Got to remember this now. We work 5 days. Most businesses, caveat here, most businesses have a 5-day work week. You're losing an entire day of productivity because your company, your organization, your team is not communicating effectively. Well, if you average that out, I'm dropping 2 weeks out of the year, so we're doing this math based on 50 weeks. Okay? So you got 9 hours lost over 50 weeks. That's 450 hours. You lose on average 11.25 weeks out of a 50 work week year. Then most companies give 2 weeks of PTO. Okay, add that into it. That's 13.25 weeks that no product, no support, no research, no interaction, no improvements are going on. Now, some would argue, well, PTO doesn't count because you got people covering for them. It's not necessarily true. Small businesses, we all wear many different hats. We don't have that many. We have a group of employees because we're a growing small business. But we all wear hats, multiple hats. So you have to look at it in that way. But 13.25 weeks, y'all. Okay, 11.25. It doesn't matter if it's 13 or 11. That's huge. Think of that. Just because I'll throw myself in here, we aren't communicating correctly. We're not communicating effectively with our teams. And within a team, if you're not communicating effectively, someone might be struggling. Somebody might be struggling, and you see that, and you do nothing about it. Sorry. Loss of productivity. Think about that. Think about how if somebody on your team is struggling, you recognize it, you do nothing about it. What happens to that individual? That individual knows they are struggling. They probably go home and drive home or commute home if they're in a brick and mortar facility, and it dwells on them, and it hurts them. It makes them think, man, I probably should find a new job. And when somebody gets in a mindset of that, you're not doing them any favors. Now, as that employee, you need to be receptive if a team member or if your manager or your boss talks to you about these things. Because they want to help you. They want to lift you up. They want to give you a big hug. Can't do that. You can't hug people in the office. Might violate some rules. But no. Seriously, if you're struggling and somebody recognizes that and they want to help you, receive that help. You as an individual, you as a person, you as a human being on this planet, you as a father, you as a mother, you as a daughter, a sister, a brother, or uncle, aunt. People want to help you. And as a leader, and again, one reason why I'm doing this podcast is to help others. Ask questions. If you're a team leader, a team manager, or director of a team, a department, a vertical, look at each of your employees. It might even be worth doing a sort of a checklist on them, a pro and con list, as some people would say. What do they need to work on? What are they great at? And just help feed that engine of help. Feed that engine. Communicate. Because look, if they're not doing a good job, they're losing productivity. They're getting frustrated, and they're going to leave your company. Those are three humongous, big, life-changing subjects. You don't know what's going on in their head. Help them. Okay? So then we're going to get a little bit into a couple other things. I'm going to try and wrap this up here because we're going a little long. But think on how your team works. Stronger relationships of your team members. It is harder with remote workers and hybrid workers to sort of work this into their schedules. But do short check-ins every day. Have design check-ins. For me, we do have a hybrid schedule, but every day, if I'm in the office and I got guys in the office, I'm like, hey, what's going on? You all right? Hey, what's up? Hollering sitting in my desk. Sometimes I walk out of my office in there to, put on my putting green. But I'm asking the guys, how you doing? What's going on? Engage with them. If you have any type of chatting system or communication system within your company or your department when you're working remote and hybrid, it's the same thing. Hey, how you doing over there? Call them out by name. Call them out as a group. It doesn't matter. Just you want to interact. You want your team members interacting. If Jim Bob knows that Sally Joe is a Atlanta Falcons fan, and horrible example, but the NFL draft was last week, and Falcons took a crazy round 1 pick. Well, Jim Bob could ask Sally Joe if she's doing all right, if she's in shock over the pick that they did in the first round, which they took a quarterback, which made no sense, which I'm not going to go down that rabbit trail. But Jim Bob is interacting with Sally Joe. And when you do that interpersonal relationship, that teamwork, that knowing that somebody else out there cares, it starts to weave its way, and it will weave it more and more and more and more until you guys are like this, just locked in, and it takes nothing now to get you apart, right? Okay. So expectations also. It's important that each team member feel good about their job and how they are doing. Have those conversations regularly. I recommend once a quarter. Now, we use a platform called EOS. It's really good. It helps us with lots of things. But honestly, even before we started with EOS at Premier Logistics Partners, I regularly knew how I was doing. I had check-ins with one of the owners of our business, and in previous jobs and companies I worked for. It goes a lot further. It is also there's an understanding of their role, the company's output, the goal setting, and the achievement of those goals. If your individual team members know what those steps are, that's great. Every departmental manager knows what those steps are and how the company's doing and how they're doing and how the department's doing. It just, guys, you got to get to where your team's like this. That foundation will not be ripped apart if your team is together and is walking together and is communicating. Talking and sharing about important information. The bridge collapse that happened, unfortunately, up in Baltimore. That was horrific. But talking about that in a mindset of, I work for a transportation brokerage company, right? So we're talking about how the fact that there's 2 other ways to sort of get around Baltimore. They're tunnels. 2 other ways that are tunnels. Well, that bridge was the hazmat route. So how do we get around it? So just involving that conversation. and setting expectations is so, so important. Bring in new tech, bring in new tools, new processes. That is so key in just how to have that wheel of communication just keep going and having your team just build and feed off that newness. Everybody loves new things, right? New accounts. Let's celebrate new accounts. There's nothing better than a small business bringing in an account and just celebrating the fact that a new account is in there. Why? Because when they interact with that new account, they're going to have a level of energy. That's like, hey, how you doing? Glad you're here. I'm glad you're buying product from us. I'm glad we're serving you in this aspect, in this vertical. It is extremely important to celebrate the wins of business across the board. That just goes with team members. When a team member has a win, communicate that not just on your individual team, but across the organization. Now, in EOS, we have our L10, our senior leadership team. That should be celebrated at that level and then trickle down to all other levels. The IT department should talk about that Sally Joe got hired and do accounting. And the IT department should celebrate Sally Joe getting a job because, hey, we got somebody new. This is awesome, y'all. Hey, we just brought on this new customer. It's going to give us some headaches, but at the same time, they're great. They're awesome. You know what they make? They make driving range equipment. Yes, I had to go there for a second because of the golf thing, but seriously, I didn't want to, skirt over the fact that there are products out there that companies make that benefit others. And when they benefit others, that is wonderful. We're not talking about your product, your service. You are supporting their company. When you're supporting their company, they're doing good things. And you are doing good things too to help support them. So you got to get through that. You just got to turn through that. Training. And training is key in any role in any company. Keep it going. New things happen. New technologies are there. There's updates to current technology you might have. Look at different courses you can have. Now, part of being a freight brokerage is we're tied into the TIA. There are courses available within TIA. I'm actually certified as a CTB, which is a certified transportation broker that I got through the TIA. We also tapped into SMC3 as well as a couple other industry-specific organizations. Be involved in those organizations. Sometimes there are free webinars that would be really good for your team to watch and listen to. So training, just ongoing. Feed the monster. Feed the monster. Because when the monster is eating and gathering all this information, guess what you're doing? You're communicating. That's right. You're using communication and communicating together with your team to make a strong bond of your team, which at the end, that foundation of trust and that foundation you're building upward for all your customers will benefit. It is the responsibility of everybody to learn. I will say training is one of those things. You will have some employees that will take it upon themselves. You have some employees that will sit back. Just encourage them. Encourage them to learn. Learning is the battle. Here we are, that part of the wrapping it up here. Shout out corner. Now, I'm gonna go not so deep, but at the same time, I want to talk about first responders, specifically police and law enforcement. We have a lot of things going on in our country, and it's some good, some bad. Well, a lot of protests going on right now. And police and law enforcement of all kinds, you might have an alphabet in front of it, or you just might be a local jurisdiction. You might be a campus cop, just whatever it is. Respect them. They're there to keep you and others safe. I'm not going to talk about the protests that are currently going on these college campuses, but it really, really disturbs me that people are treating other people not so nicely. But law enforcement officers are there to protect you. They're there to help others, save lives. Thank you, police officers. Thank you, the medical community. Thank you to the alphabet um, divisions as well, the FBI, the CIA, ATF. Everybody in that realm is here to take care of us, keep us safe. And it's a hard job. You guys got to put up with a lot of crap. And I'm sorry you do. But at the same time, thank you for having thick skin. You are a lot better than me. I would not be a good cop at all. I would not. Me and my wife, we took the kids up in the mountains yesterday on Saturday. And we went to a couple waterfalls and hiking, and it was awesome. We took the dog for the first time, which was great. I have a year and a half old black lab. He's great. His name's Hurricane, but I digress. But seriously, I don't have the heart for it. I don't. I'm glad you do. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you for giving me a speeding ticket when I need a speeding ticket. Thank you for being there when somebody shoplifts. Thank you for being there when somebody has a medical emergency. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Quote of the week corner. So this one I was like, I was out in the woods. It was great. It was awesome. What is great for quotes to have to do with the outside world? The woods, the mountains, the burliness of just nature. And I ended up, just thumbing through. And this one was good. I took a walk in the woods and came out taller than the trees. Henry David Thoreau, an American poet and philosopher. He lived in the 1800s. My notes say 1817 through 1862. Guys, it's huge. I took a walk in the woods, came out taller than the trees. And for me, that's true for me because I like the outdoors. I'm instilling that hopefully in my two daughters. But the time we had as a family yesterday was just awesome. I'll never get that back. The interactions with them on different things, taking the dog in the woods for the first time, having him trounce around in a stream and by a waterfall. It was gorgeous. It was great for my family. Again, you go there to relax, to go walk in the woods. It's the woods, y'all. It's just trees and nature. But what your mind and what your heart can do and relax and recharge itself is so vital and key. Well, here we are at the end of another podcast. Please drop me a line at the email above. Please subscribe and follow me here on YouTube or on LinkedIn. I'm looking, to keep growing and keep going at things. I hope everybody has a blessed week. Thank you for watching and listening. Till next episode. Have a good one.